August day in the Gold Coast against a Chicago rapper. And then it was promoted and bragged about on social media. And the feds say it was because of that helped them make this case. It was back in August of 2020 that Carlton Weekly, who went by the rapper name FBG Duck, was gunned down in the city's Gold Coast while shopping. A joint task force of law enforcement working together on this one. And today, CPD Superintendent David Brown says this is part of a bigger strategy to thwart gang violence and maximize prison time for those who will be found guilty. Today, 5 members of a faction of the Gangster Disciples have been indicted for his murder. In announcing the indictments, U.S. Attorney John Lausch says this is a federal case because it falls under federal racketeering organized crime statutes. Charged are 30-year-old Charles Liggins, 28-year-old Kenneth Roberson, 22-year-old Christopher Thomas, 22-year-old T. Carlos Offord, and 22-year-old Marcus Smart. The indictment alleges the 5 used social media to brag about their crimes as a way to intimidate rivals and promote their standing within the gang, which operates in the 63rd and King Drive area. But U.S. Attorney Lausch says by using social media, in a way, they set their own trap.
There are now 5 people in custody who weren't in custody before. 5 people who were alleged to have committed a murder in broad daylight in the middle of the afternoon in the city of Chicago, okay? And now it's known to them, and it's known to anybody else who might be committing similar acts of brazen violence, right? And who may brag about it or not brag about it, that their day has come. Thank you, and thank you all for being here. We are here today to announce charges in a federal indictment that was unsealed this morning, which charged 5 individuals with federal crimes relating to the August 4th, 2020 murder of Chicago rapper Carlton Weekly, who's also known as FBG Duck. Charges also relate to the shooting of 2 other individuals during that same attack. The indictment charges 5 individuals with an offense that's known as violent crime and aid of racketeering offenses, commonly known as VICAR. The 5 individuals charged are Charles Liggins, Kenneth Roberson, Carlos Offord, Christopher Thomas, and Marcus Smart. And more specifically, that indictment alleges that these 5 individuals were members or associates of the O Block Street Gang, which is the racketeering enterprise that's alleged in the indictment. The indictment further alleges that these individuals murdered Mr. Weekly as part of their effort to maintain or increase their position in the O Block. The indictment also alleges that the O Block Street Gang sought to promote and enhance the enterprise and the enterprise's members and associates' activities in various ways, to include publicly claiming responsibility for acts of violence committed by the enterprise, taunting rival gang members, and also alleges that the O Block enterprise sought to increase its status through the use of social media platforms and music. In addition to this, the first count, which involves the murder, the indictment also charges the defendants with conspiracy to commit that murder, various assault offenses related to the same shooting incident, as well as firearms offenses related to discharging those firearms during and in relation to those federal crimes of violence. I would like to thank our law enforcement partners for their outstanding work that allowed us to bring these charges, most notably the Federal Bureau of Investigation and the Chicago Police Department. Outstanding work by these individuals. We also received important assistance from the Cook County State's Attorney's Office in this case. And finally, I would like to commend the work of the Assistant U.S. Attorneys who led this prosecution team, including Al Berry, Anne Marie Ursani, and Jason Julian, who's my colleague who's here with me today. Our investigation of this murder, of the other activity by the O Block Street Gang and other gangs in this part of the city, will remain ongoing. So there were a number of individuals who were taken into custody on the south side of Chicago early this morning. I think there were 4 individuals. There's a 5th individual who is in state custody right now, does not appear yet. Yes. believe 3 of the 4 were taken into custody there. 3 of the 4 were taken into custody there. Yes, any other questions?
Why is it that this is an FBI together versus the Cook County State's Attorney and
Yep. So what happens actually pretty frequently is when we have shootings, acts of violence, carjackings, we are involved. When I say we, I'm talking federally. U.S. attorneys, assistant U.S. attorneys, the FBI, and the other federal agencies to work with the Chicago Police Department as to what we can do to help. And this is one of those cases. This is a case, without getting into the substance of everything we did in the investigation, because we're going to stick within the 4 corners of the indictment. But this was one of those cases we were able to bring federal resources to bear to work with the Chicago Police Department to ultimately help us make the case. And here, the reason why it's charged federally is because we were able to establish evidence to indicate that there was a racketeering enterprise here that was involved, and this murder was done in furtherance of that, and so federal charges were appropriate. I think this is a tactic and the type of charges that we will continue to use. We've used it actually quite a bit so far. There's a number of cases that we where we've charged either RICO conspiracy, or simply vicars, which is murder or shooting in furtherance of a racketeering enterprise. And we have a handful of those cases that we've charged federally. There's a case that's on trial right now, which is a RICO conspiracy case as well. Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to answer that. It doesn't come, within the 4 corners of what's charged in the indictment. But here's what I will say directly in response to that. Anyone who is involved in shooting and murdering somebody else, okay, which is what is alleged in the indictment here, that is a critical member of that particular gang or enterprise. And so in that sense, this is a significant charge. Again, sir, I understand why you're asking that question. That's not within the 4 corners of what we've charged here, and so that's not something that I'm going to be able to respond to directly. Okay, and so let me answer that more generally. As opposed to in this specific case, although you can read the indictment in this case, and there's publicly available material where I think you can learn more about the activities of certain individuals. But generally speaking, what's happening on social media and what's happening in music videos that are on YouTube, particularly in the drill rap genre, it shows you what's happening in this city. It shows you exactly what's happening in the city, which is that people are threatening to commit acts of violence, and then either bragging about acts of violence or talking about how they're going to retaliate for other acts of violence. And it's happening on a regular basis. And so, again, that is why it is significant that, as law enforcement, we're able to investigate and then ultimately hold people accountable for their acts they're committing. But for instance, you can go on the internet right now, you can see people in music videos, guns all over the place, talking about who they've shot or who they're going to shoot. So it can become, for cases, it can become evidence that we gather during the course of the case. But to kind of take the last 2 questions and kind of put them together, which I think might be a good way to sum up, right? So whenever you arrest gang members, there's always a risk that you create a vacuum, right? And that's what, law enforcement, our first responders, our police officers, and our federal agents, they are zeroed in on that, and they are trying to figure out, okay, where might the vacuum come, where might the retaliation come, and what can we do to try and prevent that? But here's the other thing that a case like this does. There are now 5 people in custody who weren't in custody before. 5 people who were alleged to have committed a murder in broad daylight in the middle of the afternoon in the city of Chicago, okay? And now it's known to them, and it's known to anybody else who might be committing similar acts of brazen violence, right? and who made that their day has come. They have been, yeah, they will have their day in court, they are presumed innocent, but their day has come, and, and there's a long, again, if we're able to prove them guilty. And that is significant, right? If this gives pause, even 1 minute of pause to somebody who might think it's a cool thing to do, to get on video, to bring out some guns, let's talk about how I'm going to shoot somebody. If this gives pause to them, we're doing something good. We're doing a lot good, and we're going to continue to do more of this. Okay? Thank you very much. We appreciate it.
Hey, let me see the keys. I'm gonna light out the trunk.
Real BB, stupid man. No?
You get trophy like that, man. I thought that was like a baby. You got it.
Told him, like, did you know him?
Who that?
Did you know him before, like, everything?
Like that. I don't know. Okay. All I know, don't say that shit about Troy or rest in peace. Duck. Okay. So you got anything about FPG Duck? We, yeah, you know what I'm saying? You know, don't say shit about Troy. That's it. Don't say shit about Troy. Get that guy over there. Whatever, you know me. Come on, man. Don't do that. Don't do that. You know I know that. Stop playing. Stop playing. Don't do that. Stop playing. Talk to somebody else today.